Welcome everybody to our next Green Kitchen conversation session, where this time we're going to be looking at doing some vegan baking. So, Steffi, what's your baking going to be today?
I'm going to try some vegan pancakes, which sort of are looking like American-style fluffy pancakes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. It's the first time I've tried it, so we'll see how it goes without any eggs or milk.
Nice. And I'm going to go for some chocolate muffins, and I've got some chocolate frosting to go on top, and I'm using some soya milk in mine. So, but the first time we've tried these ones, we'll give them a try and see how we get on.
Great, sounds good. Looking at some of the alternative things that you can use out there, obviously baking, you think of your staple like butter, eggs, kind of thing. But actually there's loads of ways that you can make cake magic happen without any of those things. So you mentioned you're using plant milks, Vicki, and I'm using plant milk in mine as well. But actually you can use a lot of cooking oils as well, can't you?
Yep, I have got, so I'm going to be including some cider vinegar, and I've also got some, it's going to use sunflower oil, but I've got some rapeseed oil. So we include, that's kind of what I'm going to use. I have got some vegan sort of spread, which is going to be part of the icing, which I'm going to try. But I think there are loads of alternatives out there that you can try, and I think, you know, I have to say I haven't done that much vegan baking, but when you start looking around, there are so many different ways you can do things. It's just a bit experimenting and swapping, making simple swaps that you can do. We had cider vinegar in the cupboard, the oil was in the cupboard, so it's quite an easy switch to make.
Yeah, I think I looked up a vegan sort of cake recipe as well, and I think it'd been used maybe during the war or something, where there were lots of egg shortages and things. And it is just the reaction between the vinegar and, is it the baking powder or something, that creates that rise, the same as an egg would do.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours whose birthday was had a lemon meringue pie that was completely vegan. And that was using the water from a tin of chickpeas. I don't know if you've heard that one before.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can blend those up a bit like you're making a meringue traditionally. I think you would use a sugar syrup. But it's amazing what you can use, you know, that have the same properties and just, you know, give you that treat factor while still keeping a vegan diet.
Yeah. So have you done much vegan baking?
I have. Yeah, I have, because I used to work in cafes where you need to bake a lot. And, you know, people really want to have a vegan option available. And I think probably one of the easiest things is to do like a tray bake.
Yes.
And yeah, you just swapping out butter for a vegan or plant-based bread. That usually works, as far as I know, pretty much like for like.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, you could just try a recipe like that. But I would usually do like a crumble texture with that, and then maybe layer it with apple or some kind of fruit or blueberries.
Yeah.
Bake it in the oven a bit like a flapjack, and kind of, you know, and you get date slices and things too. And also I think banana and carrot cakes translate very well to vegan.
Yeah.
I think with those you usually could use oil as well instead of your fat, and you wouldn't need eggs in those recipes. Yeah, if you Google it, there's so many out there, aren't there?
I think there are, and I think, you know, sometimes there's can be a perception when I've talked to people about sort of veganism that it's difficult to find things you could eat. And actually, when you start to research and start to look, it's about making small changes. small adjustments to it. It's not a big complicated needing an entire new sort of set of ingredients. It can be done in a very manageable way.
Yeah, and they're like you said, they're sort of things that you kind of have in your store cupboard anyway. Like coconut milks and vegetable oils, sunflower oils, always really useful. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got coconut sugar I'm putting in mine, which kind of came out of the conversation we had a good few weeks back now.
Yeah, and I saw that you can make a chocolate icing, or any icing maybe, with an avocado as
Yes.
have you seen that?
I have. It's not something I've ever tried,
No.
but I think we should give it a try, really, and see what it's like.
No, don't have an avocado with me today, but yeah, that sounds good.
No, but it sounds with all this. Have a go, experiment, see what works.
Definitely.
And as with all the conversations we've done, share your ideas, share your inspirations. Just on our social media today, Emma, one of our fabulous volunteers, has got a week-long vegan menu plan there with sort of costings up there for inspiration. So go and have a look at that. For making our chocolate muffins, we've got 250 ml of soya milk, which we're going to use today, and we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla essence to this. And we're adding 80 ml of oil. Now I've got some rapeseed oil, and you can use sunflower oil. We're going to add that into there. And then we are going to add in a tablespoonful of cider vinegar. Okay. So that's all our wet ingredients mixed together, and I'm going to just give that a whisk and get it all mixed together, and then we're going to leave it to sit just for a few minutes to try and thicken it a bit. So we will come back and we will get our dry ingredients ready while that's got time to thicken. So we're now going to get our dry ingredients together and get them into a bowl. So we're putting 200 grams of plain flour in. I'm just going to sieve it so that it just gets rid of any lumps, and I'm also going to add 50 grams of cocoa, and we are going to add a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. That in with our mix, and half a teaspoon of salt. We'll give all them mixed together, and while we're doing it, we're going to create a bit of a well, which is where we're going to add, once our wet ingredients are thickened, we're going to add them into this. We've got a bit of a well there for them to go, and then we can mix them together. So we're going to go back to our wet ingredients, which have thickened, and we've got a well within our mixed up dry ingredients, and we're just going to pour this in and sort of whisk it together so we've got a smooth kind of batter. Mix it all in. Now, I realised when I was just preparing that, because I was filming, I'd forgotten to add in my sugar, but that's fine to just add it in now. So I'm going to use for this coconut sugar. So I've got 150 grams of coconut sugar. I'm putting that in, mixing it all together, so I'm back to my smooth batter, and then we'll place it into the cupcake cases. So that's our batter, nice and smooth and ready to go in. So what I've got prepared is got a muffin tray with 12 muffin cases in, and what I'm going to do now is spoon them into there to sort of 2/3 full, and then they're going to go into the oven, and the oven's on at 180 degrees, gas mark 4, and they'll cook for sort of 15 to 18 minutes. So we'll come back to them once they're cooked. For the chocolate frosting we're going to make, we've got 150 grams of vegan spread, which we're going to whisk up with an electric whisk, and then to that we're going to gradually add 350 grams of icing sugar and 50 grams of cocoa, but we're going to add it sort of a spoonful at a time. So I'm going to get on with that, and we'll come back when it starts to be mixed together. So that's our icing all mixed together, which is our sugar, our cocoa and our vegan spread. I'm going to finish it off by just adding probably a tablespoonful of the soya milk and a wee pinch of salt, and then we can pipe it onto the muffins as soon as they're cooled. Here we have our cooked muffins, which we're just letting to cool. While they're cooling, we're going to get on with the icing. Here we have the finished chocolate muffins, all iced and ready to be enjoyed. I think because it's so warm, I'm going to put them in the fridge just so the icing doesn't melt too much, and then we can enjoy them.
Hey everyone, so I'm going to be trying some vegan pancakes. Basically swapping out the milk and the eggs. We're going to have some almond milk and use quite a lot of baking powder. And I'll share the recipe that I'm using, but the recipe has stated 1 tablespoon of baking powder, which seems like quite a lot, so I might just try with a bit less. But anyway, I will just take the camera and show you where I've got to so far. So this recipe is pretty straightforward in terms of mixing. So it's simply a case of mixing all your dry ingredients together and then stirring in all of your wet ingredients. So to start with, the recipe has called for 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So I think that's plain flour in the UK. So it's asking me to put in 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Now I just feel like the flavour is going to be really strong. So I'm going to be a bit rogue. I'm just going to put half in and see. It maybe means that they don't rise and become as fluffy, but I think, you know, to get a nice flavour, it might be worth doing that. 1 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to do that. What else? We have 2 tablespoons of sugar. I am just going to use what I have, which is some light brown sugar. So I hope that might make them a bit more caramelly kind of flavour. This recipe does say, once you've added the wet ingredients, to not over mix it. I think that affects the batter. So that's something to note. So now our wet ingredients. We've got 1/2 cup of water, which I've got here, going in. And I'm going to use some almond milk. The recipe says that you can use almond, oat, any kind of plant-based milk works fine. And so it's asking me to do 1 cup. So I have my 1 cup going in there. And then it asks for 2 tablespoons of oil. Now, I didn't have any oil, so I have got this plant-based bread. I've just melted a bit in the microwave. I'm going to do that. So like I said, I'm hoping that pancake recipes are quite adaptable. Vanilla essence in there too. A little, and then gently mix together. So that's just to give you an idea of like the consistency. So fluttering a bit there, but I'm just going to do one at a time. So I think, you know, I always think pancakes need they quite like a hot pan, but this plant-based bread has started to kind of spit a bit, so I turned it down a touch. And yeah, now you can see it getting to work. It's got those nice kind of American pancake style bubbles popping up. So yeah, now it's just to see if it flips over. I probably won't attempt a flip in midair. Okay, the moment of truth. Oh, so yeah, it's looking good, looking like a pancake. It's nice kind of puffy texture. So I'm really happy with this recipe. I can report they're very tasty and fluffy. I think I'd recommend just watching out what you use to grease your pan. I used a plant-based bread, but it did kind of spit back at me. So maybe just using a bit of oil would be better. But yeah, so I think I got about 8 pancakes, pretty decent size. And also I think with this recipe you don't need to let the mix rest. You just go for it and start cooking straight away. And then here I've got some of the toppings that I maybe talked through earlier. Just some fresh fruit would be delicious. We've got cinnamon, sugar, and some apple puree, and then a classic that my toddler is going to love, which will be banana and peanut butter. Yeah, so I hope that's inspired you. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of some things you can try with vegan baking. Yeah, please do share any exciting things that you've tried or ideas in the comments, and we'll be posting our recipes in the description of this video, along with maybe some resources that we found when we were doing our research as well as that.
Yeah, please share pictures. We'd love to see what you've been making. That's always a lovely thing.
Yeah, or what you've eaten. Yeah, someone else has made.
Yes, that equally works. So yeah, photos, pictures are good. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing your inspiration and your ideas.
Yeah, and while we're mentioning recipes, we probably should say that our colleague is putting together a Forth Valley community cookbook, and that's working in partnership with One Planet Forth Valley. And so we're on the hunt for any recipes that you've made that you enjoy, and also a photo if you have one to go along with those. So if you did have any, we welcome any entries, and we'll just hopefully get them published in a lovely community cookbook. So to do that, you would just email Julie at forthenvironmentlink.org, and I'll put the details in the description as well. Sorry, just a plug there at the end.
Yeah, no, that's great. This is all good inspiration, and yeah, it's going to be a lovely recipe book. So yeah, get your favorites in, and they don't have to be vegan. Just because we're talking about it today, they can be, we're looking seasonal, local, whatever your favorites are. We'd be keen to hear about them.
That's right. Okay, thanks, Vicki.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.